Hi, this is Brendan McLaughlin. This is week 4 of my reflective log. We'll be covering on this week, where is it? The 9th to the 11th. Just a quick note before we get into this week. It's going to be a 2-day week because when Thursday was kind of an off day, it was a trip day. So I'm not going to talk about it because I just want to see the Batman. It's a really good film. But basically, it's going to be a short video. I'll be talking about the 9th and the 11th. I'll just not be talking about Thursday. Also, quick thing before we go into this, I now have access to Premiere. You might remember in the first 2 reflective log videos, I mentioned that I didn't have Premiere, and that's why I was doing it over Zoom. I've decided, just because I like this format of Zoom, I've decided to combine last year's and the previous website's kind of reflective logs and how I've been doing reflective logs. So I'll record it on Zoom because I think it's a good way for me to easily grab work, easily kind of show what I'm doing, and I think it's less stress on me personally. I think it works out for a better outcome. But I'll be using Premiere to kind of edit it down, kind of add section to it, and just make it a bit more organized so you can easier understand it. For example, I don't put graphics on the screen, sometimes text, just highlight it, things like that. Overall, this was a pretty solid week. This week we kind of started on research. Just kind of building a process research report and things like that. This is something I'm pretty good at. Writing has always been my strength. If you remember, last year, I think I really had many issues with writing and stuff like this. So let's just get into the first day. That was Wednesday, the 9th. Okay, to cut this out, Brendan. Okay, so Wednesday, as I've always talked about, Wednesday is a pretty short day. It's only in for a couple of hours. And just a quick note this week was I'd done it via Zoom because there's been a couple of COVID outbreaks. I think I talked about this way back in context. Well, I talked about one of the potential issues is COVID. COVID is still going on. So at this time, just because there's a couple of COVID outbreaks, it's decided with the college that it'd be better if we done it via Zoom this week. Just because it's a bit easier and stuff like that, means less COVID outbreaks. And also, as I talked about before, this is written work, so it doesn't actually need to be in the college. So what I kind of done on this day was I basically built a research planner. This research has been a big part of this year, really big. So basically what I've done was I built this kind of thing where it's it basically goes down the thing. So for example, planning technique. Planning technique, I looked at 2 different ways I could do it. So for example, the big part of my movie is music. I've mentioned this multiple times, but I haven't really dealt with music in a plot line. I've done a music video. I've had music, but it's never been that, intrinsically valued with the script. So I looked at 2 ways that I could look at it. So I looked at how to build it into a script, and then I basically looked at Harvard references, looked at many sources. So for example, in this, you've got books, you've got blogs, you've got videos, and I looked at it from a different perspective of a time code based script. This is different because instead of a normal script where it'd be like Barry says this, and then music's like playing, this is when it's at 004, this Barry says this and this song plays. That has, as I went into my first research report, and I won't go into now because it's too much crossover, there's many disadvantages, advantages to both methods, and I'm kind of looking at both of them. And then in planning, I'll actually look at how I can do both of those methods and kind of really finalize it. As you can see from my screen, this hasn't been completed yet, mostly because it's a very difficult process, and how I read Harvard reference and research is kind of I naturally build upon one thing and then kind of branch out from there with my research. So everything's got something, for example, but like I will be building this up. That's one of my goals for this week, is to kind of build up my research sources. And next week I also want to do the primary sources. I was going to do a questionnaire that I still need to build and send out to people. And I was going to put together a focus group with my target age demographic. As I mentioned before, it is 18 in my age and the college age. So I'll be using people in the college class because I think they are the best. They're the target demographic for this. So I'll be talking to them, basically pitching it, kind of have more of a casual conversation. And in real life, I looked at basically 2 kind of areas. I looked at kind of mental health because it's a big part of my film. So depression, schizophrenia, and things like that. Mostly because I want to nail this down, stuff like that, and not offend anyone. And I think, doing the research, as you can see here, I'm building upon that. And another thing I'll be looking at is real life locations. Like, as I mentioned in my context, Soho. I've been there, but I'll talk about a bit more on the history of it and really kind of get that history into my film because it's very much like that, like a very vibrant city. So overall, I think this was solid. If we're talking advantages and disadvantages, it is a bit difficult to say because it's only one big task. I think my advantage is my range of sources. I really did try to really kind of pull from everywhere. So usually I'll admit I use website sources quite a lot. It's easier and stuff like that, and that does create issues. But if you're just like scanning through this, you've got books, you've got Google Scholar. I use Google Scholar as a good website to do it, magazines, videos. I really try to pull from everywhere. Obviously, some areas will have more of one. For example, color grading in editing is a lot easier to find stuff for editing stuff online because there's not many books about it. And the reason for those books is they'll be outdated by the time I use from it. But a video, that can be updated quickly. Whereas something like real life I was talking about, much easier to read scholarly articles compared to a video. So it's kind of like I try to use a range of sources, but sometimes just because of the nature of that thing, it kind of clunks into it. On the disadvantage side, I am a bit disappointed that I didn't get that many sources. I was aiming for about 3 sources for each section. Some have more, some have less, but like kind of 3 sources. And as you can see, I am lacking it. I do have from like for some similar narratives. I haven't really sourced yet because just out of laziness, I'll be honest. But I think I do need to build this up. So next week, the plan is to kind of build up this research planner as I write my research report and kind of make it a bit more chunky, a bit more research, maybe have some more books. I think I'm lacking books and magazines. There's sort of 2 main areas I want to kind of extend from. But overall, I think it was a decent day. And next we'll go into Friday. As just a reminder, we're skipping Thursday just because it wasn't a traditional college day. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about a film. So Friday. Okay, so Friday was the big kind of when I started writing the process research report. As I talked about on Wednesday, I was building sources, and this is what the sourcing for is. So basically, the process research report is where I go down all the different kind of aspects of my film and kind of break them down. Example, this kind of first bit, I talked about similar narratives of my films, and this is kind of the bit where I kind of really nerd out about my film because I really like this idea. So as you can see, I've used pictures, I've used videos, I've really tried to pull from everywhere. So and like I haven't harbored references yet. Just because of how I write stuff sometimes is I tend to harbor reference after. It's probably a problem. I really need to stop doing it, but it's one of those things. So yeah, I've used a lot of sources stuff like that, and then I started looking at planning techniques as I talked about with the music one. So this is what I've basically done. I said what it was and kind of, looked at how 2 ways you could do it and stuff like that. So, and then looked at the advantages and disadvantages. And I've kind of planned out my work. So after that next planning technique with previs, this is when you basically do the whole thing, film a rough cut. I haven't really done previs before. Previs in the group project. But just because of the nature of our films and last year I didn't do the experience, how quickly they turned around, we didn't have time for previs. But as a big part of my film is visuals and timing, I think previs would be an interesting thing to do. So how I'm going to focus on previs is either through traditional storyboarding methods where you draw it all out so that, or a previs video that would be basically, well, I make the film but in a rough cut, so I don't really have the visual effects there and that, I just kind of roughly make it. And I looked at 2 planning techniques, plan grading, color grading in camera, and editing. As I've talked about my contextual part, color and kind of color grading is a massive part of this film. So I really want to work out what's the best way to do it from a creative point of view of how does this look to a practical point of view. Is, can I do this? Can it be done in time? And I looked at another practical technique, and this was VFX. I looked at 2 different programs. Premiere, this is a program I traditionally use. I use Reflective. I'm probably using it right now to edit these effects files. And there's another program called After Effects that's, as the name intends, about effects. So I'm going to look at each one, seeing how good the VFX are, because VFX will be a big part of my film, and same as the color grading. And then I looked at primary sources. These are the sources that I've conducted myself. Primary is you've done yourself. Secondary is someone else has done it. So like these sources. So the 2 kind of main areas I thought would be best is question and focus group, because it's easily allowing me to get feedback and stuff like that, and really narrows me down. And then real life influence I talked about before, mental health. So that was Friday. I think on the advantage side, I think the cinema narratives are really good. You can just see my passion for this film is really kind of bleeding through with the cinema narratives. I'm really kind of nailing it down. I'm looking at like a range of films and stuff like that. I'm not just like going, oh, I'm just going to look at like Baby Driver. I'm looking at multiple films. I'm really kind of working out what I want out of this film. And as you can see, I wrote quite a lot. This is the most built up, and I would say mostly complete section. I guess a bit more I can write, and obviously part of reference, but this is the most complete section. And on the other side, disadvantages, I think I could have wrote more this week, I'll be honest. Um, like as you can see after that, there was a lot of kind of empty ground, and I think that means I got a lot to do next week. That I think I can do because I am good at writing, as I mentioned multiple times. But it's one of those things where I could have timed out my time a bit better and kind of. I think I got a bit too carried away with similar narratives and maybe it's a bit too much. So that's been Friday. Now I'm going to go into my overall wrap up and kind of set myself a target. Okay, so this has been the fourth week of my course. Got a bit confused there. This was an interesting week. It's kind of building a base for this because next week's gonna be really where I started writing and stuff like that. But I think it was okay. I obviously wasn't. I was only in 2 days compared to my normal 3 days, but I think I got a lot done. I would say my main advantage is from what I've got, I think it's really good. I think the sourcing is a big advantage for me so far because I will admit up to this point my sourcing has been weak. Last year I didn't really do sourcing just because it wasn't required, and then with Unit 11, the previous units, I mostly just source books. I mostly just source websites just because I found that personally easier. But I really kind of set myself a challenge to kind of really put multiple sources. So I've been looking at magazines, books, videos, and stuff like that. And the reason for that is it allows you to kind of get a bunch of viewpoints and really kind of a bunch of different perspectives and stuff like that, and really nail it down and really get the exact point of what you're doing. So I think that's a good advantage. I would say this week is advantage my sourcing. On other disadvantages, and this actually goes into the target from last week, was I talked about last week. I want to try to balance my time better, and I think this is an ongoing issue I have, and something I talked about last week is what I'll be trying to do as much as possible. But I think again this kind of hit me. I think what I got done was pretty decent. I have done worse, but I think it's one of those things is I do really need to kind of write a lot more and stuff like that and really kind of nail these down to make sure I have the best shot at this year and getting the distinction that I want. So kind of going into my target for next week is next week's target is to kind of balance my time better. Maybe look at more sourcing to kind of fill out this sourcing kind of thing. And basically finish up the contextual research report. I've got quite a lot to do, but I think I can do it. As I talk about, I'm very good at writing things down, stuff like that. And really nail down these primary sources. This is the one thing I'm worried about is primary sources, because primary sources do take a while to get. I think I really need to get on that and really nail down those primary sources. So overall, that's been week 4 of my course. It was a mixed week on it, and I'll admit that personally, I am a bit disappointed of what I got done. But I think it's one of those things is that you need to kind of get up and go, next week I'm going to really hit it, and next week I'm really going to get this done and get like a solid bit of work done. Just a quick note, I forgot to didn't mention this in the intro, but these reflective vlogs. Last year, my thumbnails, I jokingly made them different pictures of my face. This year, I decided this unit or front FMP, I've decided something a bit different to play into the surrealism films, my surrealism nature of my film. Every week, I'll be taking the same picture of myself, but messing with it in a different way. This is just kind of a fun thing I like doing. It shows that it's clear branding. As you can see, it connects with the theme of the overall film, and also on a more very businessy kind of point of view, I get to test out different techniques. I usually try to use free and Photoshop as much of the time in my free time, just to nail it down, make videos, my friends, I make film videos, are serious, stuff like that. But I think one of the things I never really get to use is Photoshop. So I'm kind of just taking this opportunity to go, why not use Photoshop to make some thumbnails? So that has been week for my course. As always, I think I could have done better, but it's one of those things. So thank you for watching, and now I can't find the stop recording button. Thank you for watching.